Now, just on climate change politics, so I want to show you how it's playing out in a much more genteel way, if you like, opening up a new front in the annual general meetings held by some of our major companies each year. Activist groups with tiny shareholdings are putting climate-related items on the agendas of these big companies at the AGMs and trying to get those companies to do more on climate policy. Even companies that are not directly involved in generating emissions or creating energy. The big banks are being targeted, and earlier this week there was a resolution put up by activist group Market Forces at the ANZ AGM.
Despite committing to support the climate goals of the Paris Agreement, ANZ has failed to align its lending practices or policies with these goals. In order to meet the climate goals, the Paris climate goals, we need to phase out coal power in OECD countries by no later than 2030.
The moves were soundly defeated at the AGM there when it was put to the vote, but they demanded responses in the meeting paperwork and in the discussion, forcing the bank's leadership to explain their position.
I mean, obviously we don't agree with all of it, but I think you're entitled to your statement and you've put it out there and it's up to others to see.
David Gonski there, the ANZ chairman. All this is within the rules, of course, and people are very much entitled to voice their views, especially if they've got shares in the company. But keep an eye on this. This could create a lot of angst in the future. This is why so many companies are now bending over backwards to appease the leftist agenda on environmental or even social issues. They fear what the activists can do to upset their shareholders, upset their customers and investors, or even the unions that they have to deal with. They know the activists are on the march in social media, in protests, and now in shareholder activism. They need to learn how to hit back. Otherwise, the activists will turn banks into climate change policy instruments. And the banks are already having a hard enough time doing the basics and giving value to their customers.